Hello, and welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm Brenda Winkle, and this podcast is for high-performing, empathic women who are ready to stop second-guessing themselves and start trusting what they know. Maybe you're successful in your career or business. People rely on you. You make difficult decisions every day, and yet sometimes the moment someone else's emotions, expectations, or opinions enter the conversation, your own clarity starts to disappear. If you've ever wondered, how can I be so confident everywhere else in my life but struggle to trust myself when it comes to my own needs, you are in the right place. Each week, we'll explore self-trust, nervous system regulation, emotional energy, boundaries, intuition, and the everyday moments where your life changes, not because you've become someone new, but because you learn to stay connected to yourself. I'll share client stories, my own experiences, practical tools, and honest conversations to help you stop abandoning yourself and start creating a life that's truly your own. Because I believe you already know more than you trust, and that is a yes-filled life. I'm so glad you're here. Let's begin. Hello, and welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life podcast. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. Today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about the ways in which we can permission ourselves to follow our true path. I'm bringing on a client of mine named Brian Beall. Now, before we jump into today's conversation, I want to share why I chose to bring Brian on to the podcast. Brian and I don't hold identical theological beliefs, and that's okay. One of the things I value most is being able to learn from people who see the world differently while staying grounded in my own convictions. I know many of you are curious about practices like breath work, Reiki, somatic healing, or intuition, but maybe you've also wondered whether exploring these practices somehow conflicts with your faith. Rather than tell you what to believe, I wanted you to hear from someone who's walked that path himself. And not only does he walk this path himself, but he guides other people to walk this path as well. And whether you share Brian's faith tradition or not, I think you're going to hear something much deeper in this conversation. You're going to hear what it looks like to become more fully yourself without abandoning what matters most to you. I'm so pleased to introduce you to Brian Beall. Hi, Brian. Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
I'm really excited for this conversation, and I know that this is going to be really helpful for so many people, and I want people to get to know you. And before we dive in, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
I am a spiritual director, and my name is Brian Beall, as you said, and I work for a company called Spiritual Pathways, my own company. And I also do some Reiki as well as spiritual direction and um, somatic healing. And I have some empathic abilities and all that. So it kind of helps me to drive the bus of what to listen for. And
Mm,
spiritual direction's biggest thing is listen and listen until people have an aha moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Before you and I started to work together, what was happening in your life that made you realize you wanted to work together?
The main thing was I felt like I was stymied.
Say more.
And I kind of felt like, yeah, and I kind of felt like I was stymied by myself.
Hmm.
That's the best way to put it. And I was talking to my wife and daughter last night about this, and like, gosh. And my wife just looked for a while and she said, I think what you needed and what you found was self-confidence.
Mm,
And not even just self-confidence to go out the door, but confidence in that I can do this and that I'm good
yeah.
enough. And that
Ooh.
was like, and that was big. That was big. Gives me goosebumps talking about it.
Mm. Yeah, that is so cool.
Yeah.
What did you know before we started working together that you did not fully trust yet?
What what did I know that I didn't fully trust?
Yeah.
I I still don't trust my, this is one thing I didn't and I still don't, is my advertising abilities to grab people.
Mm.
But also, more than that, what I didn't trust was my ability to listen and to help people to cure, well, self-cure. And
Mm.
2 years later now, I'm into it, and I feel like, oh, I just had a couple of sessions yesterday, and I just felt like, oh, I'm kind of in the groove. It's about listening and letting them, and letting the higher power kind of guide things.
That's so good.
Oh, yeah, it was pretty cool. Thank
As
you.
you, yeah, you're welcome. It's been really, really cool to witness as you step into this fully. And one of the really interesting things about your story is that you came from organized religion
Yes.
and you
Yeah.
still are associated in certain ways, but
Hmm.
that journey is very relatable because so many of us have organized religion in our families or in our histories. And it was really tricky to navigate spiritual abilities that
Yeah.
maybe aren't sanctioned by organized religion.
Thank you for saying that. That's a very good topic, and it's a long one.
Hmm.
It takes a while to cover, but just kind of simply, yeah, I totally agree. I had some experiences with my local church. They found out that I'm a Reiki master, and they let me know that that's not appreciated. And I was like, wow, this is, I guess the hardest part, Brenda, is realizing that this is who I am, and my home religion, my family religion, may not fully accept me as I am.
Hmm.
And I was talking to another person that we both know, a Reiki master, who said, I finally realized that I'm aligned with my own self image and my own self gifts. And I just look at it like, God, that is the greatest place to be, isn't it?
Hmm.
To realize that you can just settle down. But yeah, the whole organized religion has been, it's kind of starting from a base and then trying to fill it with something that makes sense to me
Hmm.
and to others, actually.
Right. And
And
that's
that's
one
a
of the
big thing.
areas that you specialize in is helping people work through
Yep.
religious trauma where
Yes.
they are trying to come to terms with their own relationship with the divine that may or may not be the same as what is taught in organized religion.
That's exactly it. Thank you, Brenda, for bringing that up. That is exactly it. I was talking to my cousins the other day, and we're all Catholic and raised Catholic, and she doesn't. Well, what she said was, I know a lot of people who are raised Catholic who don't go to church anymore.
Hmm.
And she was kind of irritated. And I said, I think the biggest thing is what we're looking for is not a ritual, and nothing wrong with rituals. We all do them, but we're looking for some kind of a bigger experience of God in our soul and that we're connected to. And rituals are great if they bring us that experience. And
Mm,
I think that's the biggest, oh, that's a goosebump moment for me right now, is just that wanting that experience of God. Everybody says, God will change you. "Oh, I'm not getting it. Well, let's go a little bit deeper and have an experience of God and see what that's like. I think I know for a fact that's what I want, and I think that's what a lot of people want.
for sure. And it's
Yeah,
likely that you now attract people who are on similar journeys because
yeah,
we each tend to attract people who have some element that is like us. And
right.
so the commonality between you and I is it took me a long time. I trusted my gifts. What I didn't trust was that I would have gainful employment after I admitted I had them.
That's a good one. That's a scary one, isn't it? Let's
Yeah.
just say yeah, because I I was in cybersecurity, which was, a really good high paying job. And, it did well. And I came to a point in my life where I did retire and a little bit early and only about a year and a half. And so that was a concern. I This is funny. We're talking about this. I'll tell you the story. I went to the weekend where I had my Reiki, or I attained my Reiki master certificate. And, my wife was at home and I had just retired on Friday and then Saturday and Sunday. And I came home and my wife said to me, well, now that you're out in the clouds and you had this great experience, now let's talk about our finances. And I said, okay. She says, it may bring you back down to earth, but it may not, because I did all the finances and we're going to be just fine while you're in retirement.
Mm.
And so that was a blessing. You can just feel that come off you, huh? And then, but also it gave me the freedom to do what I want to do, what my gifts are. And I know it doesn't make a lot of money. It's kind of like being yeah, it's
Well,
kind of like being or an artist or a musician. It's just hard to, you know,
that's a belief system,
yeah, there you go.
and that
There
may
you go.
not
There you go.
that may not be a fact.
That's, and I'm kind of starting to figure that out too. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're usually
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, and that's my self-confidence or lack thereof talking. It's like, well, yeah, I'm not going to do much. Well, I'm
But
doing more than I thought I would.
yes, for sure. What was the first change you noticed after doing some work together? So, for context, we've worked together in a group program that is comparable to Power called Your Yes Filled Life. We worked
Mhm.
together in the Empowered Empath Collective. We worked together in some one-on-ones. What was one of the first changes that you started to notice in yourself?
The first biggest one was the affirmation of my psychic ability.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I started to see everything starting to wind together. And I have been in sessions with people where I can feel somebody talking to me
Mm-hmm.
and guiding me of what question to ask. And so that's what I'm talking about, the interweaving. That's what I first noticed. And I did notice also one thing I wanted to was how the body and the spirit and mind come together. And I think we figured that out through that somatic healing
Mm-hmm.
training that we did.
Yes.
And just how impactful it is. Like, gosh, who knew? Well, I think everybody knew,
I
but
don't
now
know
we
that
all know.
I don't know that everybody
No,
does know,
I don't think
because
so.
we're taught in many cases by organized religion
Yeah,
to not feel our bodies, to
yeah,
consider our bodies to be sinful, or it's only divine, it's only acceptable if we're in prayer, if we're using our
yeah,
head and up. And so there's a lot of
yeah.
unlearning that has to happen for us in order to get into our bodies to process somatically.
Oh, yeah, that is so true. I've got two clients now who are in their early 80s and they've been Catholic all their lives. And I will say stuff and they'll go, gosh, that is so different than what we were taught.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, spirituality is about getting into the flow of God.
Mm-hmm.
And this person says, oh, we were taught that God is out there, not just everywhere. And for me, that is so much more freeing, that kind of experience of we're just stepping into that. It's almost like, you know, you see those fingers of God coming from heaven, and you
Mm-hmm.
can just step right into that
I love it.
and it and experience it.
How do you feel like you make decisions differently now? Because I can draw some lines, but I want to hear from you. How do you make decisions differently now compared to 2 years ago?
You mean like decisions just about my
About,
life or
yeah, about
anything?
your life, about whether you're sharing your gifts or how you're sharing your gifts,
Okay.
or even decisions about moving forward. Like I know there's been some family decisions. So how do you make
Yeah.
decisions differently?
I make them. That's good because I was thinking about that yesterday and how I do that now. And so that's a good question. I know I'll answer it. It is. I I was telling one client, I said I sit on my couch. My couch seems to be the space where I go and just meditate, and I go inside and feel my feelings,
Mm, hmm.
and I feel like what it feels like in my body, even, and and then I can feel God as well as my feelings, and that's where the decision comes in. And God to me seems to it gets confusing for me. It's like, well, God is me or God, and I can. It's almost vocal. Well, duh, yeah, go do that kind of thing, and that's how I can make decisions more clearly.
Do you,
And also, I'm more regulated. Sorry, go ahead.
well, I was wondering when you say I feel my feelings, there were decades of my life that I did not fully feel my
Hmm.
feelings. I would
Yeah,
talk myself out of them because they weren't convenient. I would talk myself out of them because they were leading me to a place I wasn't ready to go, or I wasn't ready
yeah,
to make the changes that acknowledging my feelings would have made. When you learned to feel your feelings, and then you
yeah.
mentioned you're also regulated now, how did you learn to do that and stay regulated?
One big thing was I looked at IFS, internal family systems, and also a deep healing. I read a book on that, and it really, really encouraged, to go back to a time when you were younger, whether it was yesterday or 20 years ago, and just to sit there with those feelings that you had
Hmm.
of either abandonment or resentment or just totally pissed off and feel the hurt, and it releases. And then I would get up and I'd be like, wow, son of a gun. I feel released and I don't feel so chained up anymore. I'm not controlled by something else. And
Mm, hmm.
and I had that talking to a spiritual director supervisor yesterday, telling her about some of my experiences, how some of the darkness is just gone, and I feel free. Like
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap! Why don't we just do this all the time?
Well, that's the fear, right? We fear that
Yeah.
if we feel our feelings, we're either going to get stuck there or we're going to have to make changes
Mhm.
we're not ready to make. And the truth is, it
Yeah.
is like the recipe for freedom.
Yeah. It's my experience, gosh, 20 years ago, even 15 years ago, was I experienced, I was going to say prejudice, but I think that goes along with forgiveness. And I realized when I would forgive somebody, I was free. And it was
Hmm.
a very similar thing. It's a very similar thing today. That's how I feel I'm more regulated and I'm not so, the world is, some days I think the world's out to trigger me. So I don't respond as much as I used to with all these triggers. And even, some of the things that would trigger me, my wife would do, just really simple things. And now it's like, well, let's just talk about that. I don't need to be all triggered. She's
Mm.
not coming after me.
Yeah, you're speaking to something really important, which is if we're triggered, there's something in us that
Yeah.
is not healed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what you're naming is that you're willing to
Yes.
look at that and be curious around it. And that
Yep.
is one of the hardest things for us to
God.
learn because it's so much easier to blame other
Excuse me.
people for
Oh yeah. I'd
ways
rather
that we're
talk about
feeling.
other people.
Yeah.
I was talking to that same person yesterday. I said, last time we talked, I didn't want to, you kept asking me what's going on inside of me. And I said, I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about the other person. And she said, that is so much easier, isn't it? And she was laughing
Hmm.
because I think we've all experienced that. And yeah, another one was, I was like, I don't know why God made us this way, but we have to go in and experience the feelings and let them release. And then we grow. Why don't you just give me a quick, easy ticket and let me grow?
Because you wouldn't. We
You
wouldn't do it.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do it. And
No.
it's just goofy, goofy good. That's what it is.
What do you think the version of you from, let's say, 2 years ago would be most surprised by seeing current day Brian?
Probably, well, I was thinking how calm I am, how calm I feel
Hmm.
um, in myself. I think that's probably the one thing, and just how accepting I am of myself. More accepting. I've had people ask me, "Do you like yourself?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And that I can say is kind of new.
Ooh,
That's pretty
that's
cool, huh?
that's really cool.
Yeah. And I'm just kind of like, I'm doing the same stuff all the time. I just got done mowing the lawn, but yeah, I'm not, you know, I don't get upset like, when I used to like, I can't get that thing mowed right. I can't do that. Well, it's just, it's going to be okay.
I've witnessed that evolution just in our time together of there is definitely an increase of self-love, self-compassion, and self-empathy.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
And how do you feel like that impacts your closest relationships?
I think it impacts him so positively. My wife is kind of empathic. When I'm upset, she's kind of distant. When I'm more, empathic with me and her and the world, she's more open.
Hmm.
And I think that's just her natural response. But we've always, like she comes home and just talks about her day, and you know, we can work things out better.
It's so interesting that you say that because that was my experience as well. And that's been the experience of every client I've ever worked with. But before we start to do this work, the
Yeah.
story we tell ourselves is if I put myself on my own list, if I learn to love myself, if I
Oh,
give myself self compassion or self empathy, or I make my needs matter, then I'll be selfish.
yeah. I actually said those words a couple of 2 or 3 years ago. I said, I'm sitting here looking at myself, and maybe that's selfish. He was like, why is that selfish? You're taking care of yourself.
Hmm.
And who else is going to do it if you don't take care of yourself?
That's right.
So my attitude, my words in response to that, that's stupid. No, I that is exactly correct. It is it is so fundamental even to your own mental health.
And it's
And
so opposite of what we think it's going to be as empaths.
yeah, yeah, and even well, I was going to go back to religion for a second, but even religion will tell you, self-love is selfish. Well, no, it's it's a good way to be because I'll put it this way. Self-love is opening up the channel so you can get in the flow with the divine.
I would
That is one way.
agree with that. And I also, this may be a hot take,
Hmm.
and I own that completely. I sometimes wonder if some of the messaging that comes from organized religion is messaged in a way to control people. And
I
if
think
we
so.
keep people down just a little bit and we tell them they can't trust their abilities, they can't trust their intuition, they shouldn't love themselves, then they're easier to control. And that's a man problem, not a God problem.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
think that that can happen in certain organized religions.
I totally agree. My wife is a convert. That's where we met when she was converting to Catholicism, and she doesn't have a lot of hangups that I do as being a cradle Catholic. But she would be like, "Yeah, so um, I don't have that hang up of feeling bad." She's like, "I think everything's good." I'm like, "Oh God." I'd be like you. And so yeah. And then and that's what she said was it's all about control and money, I think.
Hmm.
And there's even I've heard a lot of people, and in the fourth century after Jesus, then the Christian church got in cahoots, let's say it that way, with the Roman Empire. And I think the Roman Empire said, hey, we'll make you guys legal and we won't chase you down and kill you anymore. if you help us to control the people.
Hmm.
And I think that's where some of our theology has come from. And it's unfortunate that we can't evolve past that need that that was 1,500 years ago, Brenda. No
Right.
more than that, huh? 17.
Well, and that is what you are doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is
That's what I'm
literally what you're
exactly.
doing because you have, I want to highlight this, you have not left the church.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. I thought about it a lot, but I have not. I was, if this makes any sense, I was parish council president. So it doesn't mean I was, the right hand of anything. It's just, the parish leaders would get together and I was the one who was the president of it. And so I was pretty involved and I'm still pretty involved, but I'm trying to find that way in order to be free while continuing to be Catholic.
It's really inspiring. And I know that there's people out here right now trying to walk that divide. So I'm really
Yeah.
grateful for you being willing to talk about this because it's rather taboo.
It is. Yes, it is. It feels taboo, doesn't it? Even just like, let's not talk about it. Let's talk about. Well, let me put it this way. The way I was thinking about it was when I was going to be a spiritual director, I thought I'll talk about Jesus and about prayer, and now we're talking about spiritual abuse and people's abuse when they were a child and all this stuff that can help them to
Hmm.
unpack that. So you you open up the path so they can get to God
Hmm.
and get into the flow, jump into the river.
I love that. I
Anyway,
love that. What do you think has changed in your life that people may not see, but it's changed how you perceive things?
there's something that happened the last couple of weeks that was massively massive. Um, I was a seminarian for the Diocese of Boise to be a priest, and that was like 30 years ago. And I carried around a lot of baggage about, you know, I left and I was guilty and people don't like me anymore. And I used some of these tools that we've talked about, and I went into that space and um, realized I always wanted to be married. I'm happy I'm married. I don't want to stop being married, especially to my wife. And I want, and I released a lot of that. And now I don't feel guilty. And I feel a lot more peaceful. And I can sit here and talk about it without feeling guilt or that darkness.
Hmm.
That has changed the way I see myself, and I want to use that as a advertisement. This is what spiritual direction can do for you.
Yes. Indeed,
Is
especially with your training and your
yeah,
abilities, because you are trained as an intuitive somatic
yeah,
healer and you're
mhm,
trained as a Reiki master and you've done mediumship training. And we talked about the IFS
yeah,
component. And I know you've gone on and done some more work on that on your own. And so, yes, I just want to say absolutely that's what
yeah,
spiritual direction can do. So,
yeah.
if somebody listening right now is thinking, I really relate to this, but I'm scared to take the first step. What would you say?
My first thought was, well, you can call me and we can just chat and see if this is the right step and if I'm the right person for you. And I have a 30-minute discovery session. But also, as somebody told me a few times in my life, if you're feeling it inside,
Hmm.
go for it. And I guess there's always that thought in the back of my mind, and I've used this on myself. If I'm laying in bed 2 weeks from now wishing, man, I wish I would have done that, go do it. And
Absolutely.
it's a risk, but I think the rewards are a lot further than the risk and
Well, and
a
there's a
lot more
risk on the
worthwhile.
other side too, right? There's a risk
Yeah.
of not
Yeah.
honoring the self.
Yeah, that's the risk of and yes, yes. And, um, it's not about guilt, but it's like, geez, God wants you to really jumps up and down when you start choosing yourself.
That's right.
and and all your spirit guides and everybody. And I've experienced that myself. I come in like, hey guys, and they're jumping up and down like, so nice to see you. How you been? It's so nice you chose yourself. I'm like, oh God, is there a party all the time up here? Yeah, yeah. So anyway, what are you gonna say,
I
Brenda?
was just going to
Um,
say it's been an honor to walk alongside you in this journey, in this
Thank you.
evolution. You're welcome. And one of the things that stands out to me that I just want to highlight is you were told openly not to use your psychic gifts. And then you were told openly that you didn't have them in the way that you thought they should come in. And we have found neither of those things to be fact, and that you actually have really substantial gifts, both as an empath, as a psychic, as a listener, and you use this in spiritual direction. And so I want to highlight two things. One is sometimes we have to go against what people say to get the results that we know are right for us. And you did that.
Yeah, I look back and Brenda and you and I have talked about this. Is this is just the way I am ever since I can begin to remember myself and to finally embrace myself and accept myself. Oh God, I feel so good. And yeah, it's been an uphill battle a little bit, and uh, but
Mhm.
it's once again risk reward.
Right. And
So,
like I believe in you. I believe in your work so profoundly, and I know that there's people out there who need what only you can give
mhm.
because of your life
Thank you.
experience, because of your
Yeah,
gifts, because of your connection to the divine, because of your ability to stay connected to the church. Whether or not that stays in the long term is irrelevant
yeah,
because you can bridge both worlds.
yeah.
So if
Sounds
somebody
good.
wants to connect with you, if they're curious, how do you want them to do that?
What I would like them to do, well, there's one or two ways. I'm going to give you the website, and I think you'll have it out there anyway. And then my other one is my Brian Bell sd@gmail.com. And my last name is spelled a little goofy than it sounds. It's actually Beall, but it has an A right in the middle of the bell. But that's my last name, and we do pronounce it Bell. So Brian Bell .sd@gmail.com.
That's right. brianbell.sd, which stands for spiritual director
Yep.
at gmail.com. And I'll put the link to your website in the show notes. So go check that out there. And if you're looking to bridge that gap between your spirituality and your religion, highly recommend you give Brian a call
Thank you.
and give him a follow because you're still active on social media, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of redoing my path on that one. But yeah, I'm gonna put some videos out there and people can see me rather than just posting pictures of other people. It sounds goofy now, doesn't it? Oh
It's all
boy.
part of the evolution, right?
That's right. Life is about evolution, and I can't stress it enough, and I know you agree with me. The evolution, accepting the evolution where you are is half or 90% of life. And whatever. Accepting who you are and where you are, and then you can know how to get to where you want to go.
That's right. It's that
So
acceptance of, oh, here's where I am now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Accepting,
yeah.
not settling.
That's right. That's right. And we can settle pretty good, huh?
Well, we don't anymore. We don't do
We don't need
that.
to anymore. I know. As humans, like, oh, this is what I got. Well, yeah, you could we could help you to see there's more. Put it that
That's
way.
right. That's right. Well, Brian, thank you so much for being here today. I've loved this
Oh, you bet.
conversation and appreciate your time very much.
You bet. Anytime. I love talking about spirituality and spiritual direction. So I'm super duper happy to do that. So thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. Thank you. I'm so grateful to have had this conversation with Brian. And one thing that Brian said has stayed with me. He said, the version of me from 2 years ago would be surprised by how calm I am and by the fact I actually like myself. I absolutely love that. That's the reason I created Power, not so that you'll become someone else, but so you'll finally trust the person you've been becoming all along. More than that, you'll learn to like and maybe even love that version. Now, some women need a community where they can practice these skills over time. That's Power. And others are standing at a crossroads right now and they're making significant decisions in their business, relationships, leadership, or life. And they want a trusted thought partner to help them hear themselves more clearly. And that's where private coaching comes in. So I'll put the link in the show notes for Powers waitlist as well as the private coaching application. And if that sings to you, invitation to reach out and either join the waitlist for Power for the fall cohort or go apply for private coaching. I have 2 spots coming open this August in my private coaching practice. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, would you please make sure that you share it with someone you care about? And go follow Brian. I put his links in the show notes and on the YouTube description. And I can't wait to hear from you. If you loved this episode, feel free to tag both Brian and I on social media and let us know what you liked about it, or let us know if you have questions. And if you put me in your stories, I'll put you in mine. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you being a listener on the podcast. It means more than I can even say. Bye for now. Until next time.